about after you know learned to fly and you flew light aircraft, and I'm presuming you might do that every now and then for enjoyment.
Oh, yeah. So that was the question. You asked me when I finished my MBA, did I fly, commercial or did
Yeah.
I do small craft and stuff like that? So what happened was that as I was finishing my MBA, and yes, I was really looking forward to flying full time, maybe even get more training and go back to Nigeria and fly in Nigeria, all this kind of stuff. And that was the time Reagan fired all the air traffic controllers in the strike, and it created a massive commotion in the aviation industry. And as a young person, I was like, whoa, because I was hanging out with a lot of captains, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of these old airlines like Pan Am Airline,
Yes. Yes.
like Braniff Airline, like TWA. So I was hanging out with a lot of those captains. They would take me out because they were so fascinated that I was going to become a pilot like them. I already got my license and stuff. And so I got to experience what it was like when the turmoil started to get into the industry. And I felt like, wow, how can one person, yes, the president of the United States is big, but that one person can just have a power, just executive order, one signature, and just mess up so many people's lives. So that's when I decided, no way, I don't want to put my head under somebody's thumb like that.
Mm.
And so then that's when I started to move away from just being a pilot to more options. And actually that's when I decided to start my own business. So I started, into business so that I can have that freedom,
Yeah.
of not being able to just be strike out with one signature.
Yeah. So what business was your first business?
So the very first was a motivational consulting business. so this so this was a
Okay,
very
so tell me.
yeah. So this is, I mean, as you kind of hear me talk more and more, you find out I'm very spontaneous kind of person. So I was in the plane from Daytona Beach to California, and there was an ad in the plane that talks about motivation and stuff like that. So I'm like, whoa, I love motivation. Can you imagine making money doing motivation? So this company, was advertising a franchise. I didn't even know what a franchise was at that time, but I did reply to them, and they flew me from California to Waco, Texas, and took me through this training, and I ended up buying a franchise from them. So that was my very first business in my early 20s. And so I will go into companies and we'll talk to them why they need to get their staff trained, whether it's on time management or goal setting or whatever it was. And so we get the client, and this company provide the training. And back in those days, they have audio tapes, like in cassette. Remember cassette? Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know some people listening now be like, what is that? I didn't make the word up, okay? It's a real
No, you
word.
didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, so it's a cassette, and then from the cassette they move into CDs, and then, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so that was my very first business.
Okay. How many businesses have you actually had?
Oh my God.
The mind boggles.
Like, I never really understand what a serial entrepreneur was, because I just was, I was just fascinated. I do the business and I get successful very quickly with it. And then I either sell it or something. And so I can say, I would say at least a dozen different businesses, in my career, because I've actually sold about 3 or 4 different businesses in the process. Yeah.
Okay. What was your favorite business?
So aside from Happy Neighborhood, because I'm really fascinated with Happy Neighborhood, I love Happy Neighborhood. And to be honest, I don't even really look at Happy Neighborhood as a business, because this is kind of like a retirement for me. I just enjoy doing it. So that was why, being of service to people. And that's why we did it for free. It's not like we are making a ton of money doing it. If it was about making money, it probably would not be what I'm doing, you know? So it's definitely not about money at all, you know? But my favorite would have to be a mall on the internet that I created in the very early days.
What was it?
A mall, you know, like how we were just talking about Black Friday, you know, you
Yep.
can go into a physical mall, okay?
Yes. Yes.
So I was one of the very first people to create a mall, a shopping cart. Now it's called a shopping cart. It wasn't a
Right.
shopping cart back then, okay? So what happened was that I love networking. I think that's why I'm kind of, you know, still excited with HMP. I love networking. So I pick a lot of business cards in the process. And I have background in computers, you know, it's one of my degrees in computers. And so I one of the jobs that I have, I was in the Silicon Valley and I'm hearing people talking about this internet stuff, you know? So I'm like, wow. So I came back one day and I look at the stack of business card I have and I said, man, what if we can put this thing online? Now, it sounds like it's like no big deal right now, like a common thing. But back then, it was like mind-boggling, you know?
Yeah.
And so I didn't have no clue how I was going to do it. So I went to the local community college and I started talking to the computer department. And I said, hey, I have this idea, you know, of this business card. I want to put it online. And the first set of people, computer people I talked to didn't have no clue what I was talking about. Eventually, one of the instructors said, hey, I have a really smart lady that's one of my students. Why don't you talk with her and see if you guys can figure out this thing that you are talking about? So I said, okay. So I went and I talked to the lady. And then we both start figuring it out. And eventually she was like, I think I get what you're trying to do. Let's see if it will work, okay? So that's when we started taking business card and putting it online. And back then, nobody put credit card online. That was a no-no. Even credit card company would not allow it. So that was the bottom line. So no buying stuff with credit card, okay? So what will happen is we will put these businesses, I will call the business and I say, hey, we're putting you online. And they don't have no clue what I'm talking about. They pretend like they do, okay? I said, but no, it was funny because I was very active with the Oakland Chamber of Commerce. And when I first started, after we done the test, I will call company. I say, okay, we'll put you online. So people somewhere else might see your stuff and they want to buy from you. And I say, so they will order for you. So it will come via email. And then you will send them the package. Remember back in the days where the COD, that was cash on delivery, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, because there was no way for them to pay, right? So you send them the product, you tell the post office, don't give it to them until they pay, okay? So then they will give them the product, the people will pay, now you collect your money from the post office. So that was how we were doing it in those early days.
Oh.
And then it became very popular. I went to the Chamber of Commerce in Oakland and I told the president, I said, hey, you know, I'm building a mall, you know, on the internet. And the guy did not understand what I was saying. So he said, oh, this is really good. We need another mall, right? And I wasn't even sure what he was saying. So he called the meeting of all the power brokers and all the realtors. And they all came in. They were wondering, where the hell are these people going to build a new mall in this place? And then
not physically.
Not physically, you know, that was the one mall on the internet did not even exist back then, you know? And so the guy was like, I said, I didn't say physical mall, I said online. Now, the thing that was the saving grace was he wrote a note to himself because he said more on internet. So he wrote it. So he left the meeting, he went to his office, he grabbed this post-it note and he looked at it and he said, yeah, he told me a more. I said, but did you see the bottom part? He said, yeah, but I didn't understand what that is.
Did you finally get it up and running for him?
Yeah, we did. It was one of my first very successful venture because I end up selling it to another company in Mountain View, that built, added it to part of their own organization. Yeah. So that was it, and the fascinating thing was it was an idea that most people had no clue. And I didn't even really know, but I was just fascinated. I just knew that something will happen. And yeah, so that was one of my fascinating business.
So you're not scared to take risks.
No, not at all.
Uh,
Not at
what does
all.
risk mean to you?
Okay, so yes, the best way I can describe what risk is. So when I was growing up, I shared a story about 7-year-old. I want to be a pilot, right?
Yep.
There was one small, tiny problem with that. Okay, very small, tiny problem. And that is I was afraid of height. Okay.
Only a tiny problem.
Yeah, a very small, tiny problem, right? So I still remember when I was flying to Amsterdam, I asked for a middle seat in the plane because I didn't want to be close to the window because I was so scared. Okay. But all through learning to fly, I was still afraid of height until I had to do my solo flight.
Mm.
And that's when I realized this is not playing matter now. I'm either truly going to pursue my dream of flying or I'm going to die trying.
Yeah, true. True.
You
Well, you
know,
obviously didn't die. So,
no, I did not. And
mm,
and and so for that I'm very thankful. But I had to learn how to overcome the fear of height. So when you talk about risk, I think that's one of the most risky stuff I ever did,
mhm.
because once I did my solo flight, I mean, I did blank out for a little bit, but I have trained myself enough, because you mentioned it when you are in a two-seater plane,
Yep.
you see everything,
Oh, it's
very,
fascinating.
yeah. And
Magical.
but if you're afraid of height, then it intensify your fear of height. So yeah, that is the way I define risk.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
if what you're doing is that important, then you have to make sure that risk does not get in your way of doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, I am more excited about life than I am about risk. So
It's interesting, isn't it, that we are stopped in our tracks sometimes when there's a fear there. We're too scared to move forward with it in case we make a mistake or something like that. Instead
right.
of having a go, the mistake is only a failure if you don't get up and go again.
That is the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also too, I think we listen to the society too much. Okay. Because the society stigmatizes failure.
Mm,
And so everyone is afraid to fail. And so if you remove the stigma to failure and even just reframe it, and say, okay, this is failure is not really bad, it's not the end of it. It's just part of your experience in life. It's just a way to help you accumulate knowledge on what you have not done before. It's like a little kid trying to walk. When that kid tried to stand up and he slapped back on the ground, if somebody tell the kid that, hey, you can't slap back on the ground like that, that's too much, then the kid is just going to stay on the ground.
mm.
But if the parents clap for him and laugh with him, that kid is going to try to come up again. So we have to remove the stigma that is attached to failure so that people can fail more. Because in the process of failing, you can discover a lot of stuff.
So much. And you know, when you make a mistake, or you can call it a failure, there is a lesson to be learnt there from it. You just leave what's no good behind and take the learning onto the next thing that you do and create something out of it. And I think, how do you get rid of that fear if you grow up and you're told, don't do this because you're going to get hurt, don't do this because, don't do this because. And that happens a lot. Probably not so much now, but with children, you notice mums and dads, when their children are little and they're going to climb a fence or something. Oh, don't do that, you'll get hurt. Instead of allowing them to climb the fence and find out what the consequence is, because they'll only do it once most of the time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And I think also that is the fear, because a lot of parents have not taken any risk themselves.
Mm,
So then they pass that on to the children. So
mm.
then the children just decide, okay, I can only take this risk or take that risk. But it's like I joke, my daughter stopped me on the track from time to time, like when she was moving from California to go to school in Chicago, and I was like, "Oh man, you're gonna go to school in Chicago? Why not in California?" And she go, "Dad, you went all the way from Nigeria to Amsterdam, okay? So
Which is a little bit further
a
away.
little
Yeah.
bit further, exactly. So we just end the conversation that way. So
You can learn a lot from your children, can't you?
yeah, yeah,
Because they're honest and they're upfront. I mean, little kids are great because they say what they mean without any malice to it. It is what it is.
exactly.
It is what
Yeah,
they say. Whereas
yeah.
as an adult says something, but there's a hidden meaning to it a lot of the time, isn't there?
Yeah. And even if there was none, but we read more to it.
Yeah,
Whereas we don't read too much to what he says.
yeah,
So it's a combination of yes, sometimes there is, and sometimes there is none.
yeah,
But it's what we interpret. Yeah.
yeah. It is our interpretation. Now,